Today I want to be talking to you all about the history of hip hop. As you all know, hip hop started on the east side of the country in New York City back in the 80s. Hip hop artists such as Run DMC, LL Cool J, and Russell Simmons all started hip hop. They were from places like Harlem, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens, New York. They often rapped about their love lives, their struggles, and their everyday lives and the things that they went through. Hip hop started from poetry. They all would read poetry. Some would read poetry off the top of their heads. They got so clever with reading their poetry, they began to make beats with their poetry. They would have DJs at parties that would take records and put the records together to make these beats, and they would just freestyle off the beats. And freestyling is when you come up with rhymes off the top of your head and just flow with the beat of the music. The styles that they had, they would often wear big clothes, rose gold chains, big bucket hats, and they would also carry around boom boxes. Wherever the boom box went is wherever the party was. Well, hip hop changed once it went to the west side of the country, California. Rappers such as Tupac, Snoop Dogg, NWA, they all changed the outlook of hip hop. They often rapped about things that they went through, such as drugs, they witnessed violence and police brutality. So they rapped about a lot of that. But because their rap and their music was so violent, people began to take their music off the shelves. People didn't want their music to influence younger kids to grow up and carry around guns and become thugs as them. So they titled this type of rap gangster rap. Well, they was trying to hurt these guys so bad with their music. Like I said, they were taking their music off the shelves. They were holding press conferences all over the United States to get this music out. Well, they even tried charging some of these guys if there were young people that went out and committed crimes that related to their music. Like this one story, this 14-year-old boy was driving down the road and he was put over by a police officer. And because he was listening to a Tupac CD, he then pulled out his gun and shot the police officer. The media was saying that Tupac had the influence over the young boy for him to kill the police officer. So they tried to throw a charge on Tupac. These guys were saying that they were only rapping about what they knew. They weren't trying to harm anyone. But because of this, parents began to ban their children from listening to these music. And because of the way they dressed. Even their wardrobes were intimidating. They wore plaid button-down shirts, chains. They wore shades called lokes, and Chuck Taylors were also popular during that time. Well, during the late 90s and the early 2000s, hip-hop came down south. Once it came down south, hip-hop became different. These guys often rapped about what they had, their materialistic things. They rapped about their money and the women that they had. And a lot of these rappers were like UGK, Pimp C, Bun B, Paul Wall, Master P, Mystical, from southern parts of Georgia, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and Texas, where they also had to fight for the rights for their music. Because people up north were saying once the South got a hold of the music, they were basically destroying hip-hop. And they were saying the same that the people on the East were saying. We're only rapping about what we want to rap about. They thought that rapping about their wealth would get them noticed and get them recognized. But once they ended up getting rights for their music expanded over the U.S. and everyone began to copy their styles. They wore mouthpieces called grills that cover their mouth with diamonds engraved and jewels engraved in the grills. They wore big watches. They wore a lot of chains, and they carried around money. And they was also known for having women, half-naked women, in their videos and cars with big rims. Today, hip-hop is known as one all over the United States. When people look at hip-hop today, they look at hip-hop as one. It doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're from the East Coast or the West Coast or from down south. Everyone will love your music. And hip-hop will be around forever.